You off?
Yeah.
I'll be right behind you. Make the meal. We're going to talk about supplementation. Okay, so here's one of the coolest things.
I'm making my breakfast.
Oh, what's in your breakfast?
Crushing greens.
What's in your wallet?
Because I put my Give Me Back My Youth in my coffee later.
Hold on. What kind of coffee do you drink?
Brown roast.
Why?
Because it is mold free, has lower acidity, and is delicious Guatemalan medium roast, which as a coffee lover is one of my favorites because of the altitude that it's grown at, and how they grow it over in Guatemala. They use a lot of good farming practices.
So, and they're those are they plants or trees?
They're plants, because I just took
plants.
that course on it. Yeah.
So
they can grow up to like 10 meters, so they can look like trees, kind of.
So if they grow in their natural environment, because coffee plants are supposed to grow at above 1,600 meters, right? Naturally.
Well, Arabica is, because I discovered this. Robusta is known for growing at lower, because Robusta is more robust.
Okay.
So it can grow.
Which means it's a little stronger or more durable as a
But
plant.
it doesn't usually have the flavor or as much of the you're not getting as much of a taste from it because it is more hardy. But when you go Arabica, that's the one that needs to be grown at higher elevations. It's a lot more fitting, it's weaker, it's more susceptible to change in weather. And so that's why pesticides and other
chemicals
get used a lot of times because it is so fragile. And so to get good Arabica coffee, they have to be all coffee farmers, if they're serious about it and are making good coffee, are very serious farmers and want to use good farming practices.
They're literal artisans.
Yes. I mean, they usually pass it down through their family. But if you're having a troubling year, then you're going to turn to pesticides.
You're going to tweak it.
The higher the elevation, though, most people know as you get into colder elevation, you're not having as many insects.
Correct.
So if you're at
The same
1,500, 1,600, 1,700, you're not worrying about all the pests that would normally be there.
Because they don't exist in that. The same thing if you look at a mountain.
Yes.
Tree elevation and everything changes.
That's why Rahm roast isn't organically certified, but you can say it's grown using organic farming methods. Those farmers there don't get organic certified because they don't have the money.
They don't have the money, but they also don't need to because organic to them is what they've done for a century or more.
This is an interesting thing of the amount of farmers. I did a farm share in Louisville when I lived up there, and our farmer would not get organically certified. But he did not, everything he used he used plants from his farm as his pesticide, or as his pest repellent. So it wasn't a pesticide. It was an all natural.
Are you saying that farming properly in creating a good ecosystem, the plants actually protect themselves?
Yeah, which is crazy. So that's why Rahm roast can say it's used organic farming methods. It's not organic certified, but we are fair trade certified, which
because of how we work with the farmers.
Yes, and I've had some kickback on why we got fair trade certified. I think fair trade certification, and it is something that you have to pay more for you have to get fair trade certified. But
if you want amazing
products,
is
that's saying you're caring for the farmers and you're making sure they're getting paid a fair wage.
Because the important part in this is creating a circular economy.
Yeah. And so I don't know why anybody would ever get upset about paying farmers fair wages. Even if that means your product is a little more expensive, I think people who grow the coffee you're drinking every day probably deserve.
So what you're saying or what you're implying is that you're partially against slavery.
Yeah. I could make that stance that I am as the history teacher.
What? How dare you?
I know.
What?
As I've had I had 2 people reach out to me last week saying they were upset that they didn't believe in fair trade certification. And I was a little confused why I was getting that pushback. So
can you believe that?
And as Clayton knows, when I am serious about something, I don't usually like getting.
You want to see where the stance is? Look at these legs.
Yeah, it's those rugby legs.
That's a firm foundation.
But crush, Relive greens,
Hold on,
Then I
talk
take
about Crush.
Restore.
You're all SEC.
This is where Dylan needs to be.
You're
though.
no, but I want your take on this because you were all SEC in rugby, captain of rugby, coached rugby. You and Dylan played rugby for a long time, so you too are a Division I athlete, like his dad. This guy. What have you seen with Crush? What do you like about it?
I wish I could have used it more in my. So I'm trying to get back into working out, which I know you are as well.
What? I don't work out.
Have noticed my recovery is nicer. A lot of the reason why I'm doing it, honestly, is that Dylan swears by it, and anybody who knows Dylan or has ever seen Dylan knows that he knows something, right?
Yeah.
And so
He's a different species.
I have always used Give Me Back My Youth, and Dylan and I swear by Give Me Back My Youth because we started using that when Root started, like 4 years ago.
Yep. And you
so,
added it in your coffee.
Yeah, recently, but I used to just take it in a morning smoothie with Relive Greens, Restore, and Slate.
So in effect, you're using so when you're drinking your coffee, how are you doing? Are you doing it pour over? Are you doing it French press? Are you doing it as espresso in the office? And then you're basically making a Root latte.
Yeah, so I think that's how Give Me Back My Youth is. Whatever milk alternative you want to use, I think it's best if you mix the Give Me Back My Youth in. If you use,
do you use your milk alternative and Give Me Back My Youth, or is Give Me Back My Youth the alternative?
I use Give Me Back My Youth as my creamer, or as my my creamer alternative, or my flavoring alternative, because Give Me Back My Youth has a little bit of a vanilla taste, and so
because of the quality of the
and instead of using a vanilla flavoring or using vanilla creamer that's popular, I will use
Give Me Back My Youth.
Yes. And I know my milk choice I use isn't preferred by everybody.
Which milk choice is
I'm
yours?
a big whole milk.
Oh,
person.
Because he wants the whole stuff, not the adult.
Anybody that coffee. Anybody that if you're making a latte, whole milk is what's best for it. When you start getting into
and whole milk is actually what's best for you if you want to drink
on
milk.
Where you're getting it from and how you're getting it.
Oh, fair trade certified.
Then
Pay the farmers.
Oat milk is the second best alternative, but then oat milk has all of the
loaded with glyphosate.
Yeah, and then from there, coconut milk and almond milk do not froth and fill in as much as needed for coffee usually.
Unless you get if you add coconut cream, so you get all the fat from the coconuts, but that's not going to work. It could. That's the key. If you use coconut cream, because coconut milk, they're adding just a massive amount of water.
Yeah.
But if you get coconut cream, you're getting all of the fat, just like whole milk versus skim milk versus 1% or 2%. They're basically watering it down. Same thing with low sugar orange juice. If you didn't know, here's the secret to low sugar orange juice. They add water.
Wow, I might have to try that.
But if you use coconut cream, you're going to get a little bit more of the coconut flavor because you're getting all of the fat, but that's going to maximize the creaminess aspect of it.
And that's when, especially if you're making lattes, that's what you need to get. Because if you've ever tried to make a latte with almond milk,
it's too thin.
Yes.
And it doesn't froth.
So it doesn't froth, and you don't. So then you're not making. You're just making a milky Americano. Essentially,
American trash is what the Europeans would call
I
it.
don't mind Americanos, but yes, Europeans would probably say it as they're used to espresso shots.
What's your favorite frother?
Rahm Roast just came out with a frother. It's branded and everything.
It's actually dope.
I'm really proud of the Rahm Roast mugs. Wherever we don't have any here, I need to buy one. Still buy, just so everyone understands. We all still buy the products.
Be a product of the product.
RPS. My RPS is Give Me Back My Youth. I still say, I know Rahm Roast probably should be. It is my favorite. Obviously, Rahm Roast is my favorite. But Give Me Back My Youth is the product I always have.
Go to
on my RPS. I still haven't run out of Clean Slate or Greens since you gave it to me 3 years ago when I got COVID.
How could you? Oh, because I gave you a ton of Clean Slate.
Yeah, you gave me about.
You got loaded up.
30 bottles, probably more of it, and then you gave me 15 bottles of Relive Greens, which is always, I take Relive Greens
every day.
Probably 5 days a week. I get a little bad on the weekends, but a bottle of Relive Greens realistically lasts me over a month.
So $80 basically is giving you the entire nutrient profile that you need. If we looked at what the majority of people eat, that's all in Relive greens.
Yeah, depending on what you.
And then-
I would make the argument that you would still need some source of protein, but there
Crush.
are
So then you have crush, but if you needed fat, right, and everybody knows you need good fats.
Yeah.
So you put good fats, coconut,
and so that's where
and give me back my youth in your coffee. So
That's
your
what I was
your coffee becomes your fat intake.
I mean, it's basically what they were doing with I won't use the name, but the buttered coffee at one point.
Oh,
But yeah, and that's where I still want to make the argument of I go into every household I go into of one of my friends and I go into their parents. You know what their mom always has in their cabinet? They always have one supplement in their cabinet.
which one?
Collagen. They almost always have a collagen supplement. Do you know where that collagen usually comes from?
Trash.
Trash or fish or berry abilities with so much filler in it.
Yep.
And then do you know what our colostrum or our collagen? I spoiled it. Our collagen has in it. It's colostrum added into it. And I never know why more people aren't just a huge fan of Give Me Back My Youth.
Because
It literally says it in its name. Have you seen the pictures of Dylan's wrist?
Oh, what happened to Dylan?
Dylan broke his wrist.
He
playing
broke his wrist playing rugby, but check
which
this shit out.
Is, makes people in our life not
Imagine being able to go into Wolverine mode.
So, have you seen these?
I think I saw
So
the
this
first
was
one.
he
Let's
completely
look at
broke both wrists, and I don't know.
This is
Sorry,
Dylan's
Dylan.
wrist.
You can see the crack starts here and goes all the way over, and he was said that
That's
he would
a
have to be put in a cast because it was completely broken.
Yeah.
He went back a week later, and the doctor was like, "Why are you here? Like your wrist is." Are you
Broken.
sure you broke it all the way? And they went back and looked at all the X-rays, and Dylan was like, "Yeah."
Oh, show
And
him again. So this is the follow-up. That's a week later.
And you can see the only place that really has is like here, but you cannot. Yeah.
I can't do it.
So that
Hold on.
was-
Broken.
and you can see there's the jagged line all the way across, and
Not
it's
broken.
basically almost gone.
That's Wolverine mode in a week. That's
And he
crush.
swears-
Give me back my youth.
Yeah, but Dylan and I both, because I tore my meniscus
Yep.
and ACL, and then
Yep.
Dylan did his leg, his ankle.
He destroyed his ankle.
And we both
Hingy.
credit Giving Back My Youth to part of. We were both supposed to never play rugby again. Dylan was supposed to never run again.
Yep.
And he's out there
running and
and now,
destroying people.
Part of that's not a part of it's Dylan's being a freak athlete, but also he took Giving Back My Youth in a higher dosage religiously.
But you can
after
be a
the
great genetic specimen, and if you don't take care of yourself, or if you don't
You still have to do the
don't
right
eat
things.
accordingly and train accordingly,
Yeah.
you're basically going to waste what God gave you.
Yeah, because you see it all the time with freak athletes, pro players who let themselves go, and so they're great until they hit 25, 26.
And then
it goes downhill.
SOL.
Versus the players who are playing into their 40s